such a pleasure to be with you right here on the India Development Debate on ET Now. I'm Supriya, Shrinate, and with me is Sandeep, Gurumurthi. The Modi government's liberal mask may be wearing off. It perhaps is wearing very thin for sure. In a complete U-turn of sorts, the centre today washed its hands of the ongoing debate over decriminalization of gay sex, stating that it is up to the wisdom of the Supreme Court to decide on this particular issue. Filing a submission before the top court, the centre also made it clear that it has no particular view on scrapping Section 377 of the Indian Penal Code. Interestingly, the change of stance comes a day after Attorney General K.K. Venugopal recused himself from the case, stating that his views run contrary to those of the Modi government.
The big standoff over LGBT rights is a political hot potato for the government. A pro-liberal stance is sure to raise the heckles at the RSS headquarters in Nagpur, while an anti-LGBT position could wean away the liberals from the BJP ahead of the 2019 polls. But hope is floating for the LGBT community. The Supreme Court has indicated that it is not interested in playing the moral police if two adult persons are involved in a physical relationship, even if they are from the same sex, and it is looking into the criminality aspect. The big standoff over LGBT rights, that's the topic of discussion tonight on the India Development Debate. And joining us for this edition of the show is Harish Iyer, equal rights activist, Flavia Agnes, women's rights lawyer and co-founder of Majlis, Raghav Avasthi, lawyer and RSS member, Shaina NC, spokesperson of the BJP, and Mohammad Khan, spokesperson of the Congress party. Harish, let me start with you. The government says it has left it to the court to decide on consensual acts of adults. Is the government being evasive? Should it not have taken a clear stand in the court today?
I think I think it's very basic. What we are asking for is very basic. We don't want people to interfere with private lives in our bedrooms. So no one should be playing peeping Tom. And this Section 377, as long as it's consensual and it's private and it's done and it's done between adults, no one should have any problem with it. I think it was a clear stand that the government could have taken. They could have supported it, but good that they are not opposing it. They are not with Section 377. They are kind of taking a very comfortable position by leaving it to the judiciary to decide. But should we be happy about it? Yes, we need to be happy about the fact, and it's sad that we need to be happy about the fact that the government has not taken a homophobic position.
All right, that's a strong statement. The government seems to be taking a very homophobic position right now. But I'll take it across to Shaina NC. And Shaina, and a little later in the show, we are going to discuss why are we looking through this entire thing through the prism of only sex. This is about same-sex marriages. This is about inheritance, property, and all of that. But let's just first stick to the government stance in the top court. Now, whether it is triple talaq or contentious issues like Aadhaar or any other contentious issue for that matter, the government has just refused to bite the bullet and instead expects the Supreme Court to be taking all these calls. We keep talking about this new India, Shaina, and I know the Prime Minister talks about it. In a progressive country, shouldn't the elected government, an elected government with a brute majority like yours, be taking stand on issue, be taking a call on subjects? What is a mandate worth after all if you're going to keep passing the buck to the top court?
Well, firstly, Supriya, let me please say that there is a hypocrisy in our society for a fact. The opening statement being extremely loaded, we do have a certain kind of mindset which believes that the institution of marriage needs to be protected. Homosexuality in the LGBT community is existent, but should we be addressing this issue? There is a huge battle that we could have on that. But I think the important point that we need to raise here is that the government is not for 1 minute shirking away or shying away from the responsibility to admit that yes, we need to decriminalize, but more importantly, we as a society need to address and talk about these issues in Parliament, etc. It is the Supreme Court to decide. We do believe that two consenting adults, what they do in their private space is not the issue of the government. But it is also important to understand that in a country which is as conservative as India, there is going to be a certain kind of resistance. If you take Shashi Tharoor trying to pass the private members bill, He didn't even have support from his own party, leave alone others. So I think that Mr. Modi, as our Prime Minister, has been extremely forward in 2015, where he said there needs to be amendments vis-a-vis the transgender, and we need to have laws in place.
Okay, I take that point, but conservative, have our lawmakers let us down is a point that we will raise it. And comment on that, Raghav Avasthi, the Supreme Court in 2013 ruled that a change in law could only come from India's parliament. Have India's lawmakers failed us once again?
The fact of the matter is this: as far as the RSS is concerned, in March 2016, Dattatreya Hosbale gave a very clear statement that he had no objection and that the RSS had no organizational objection if Section 377, in as much as it is used to criminalize consensual homosexual acts between adults in the privacy of their bedrooms, in as much as it does that, it should be done away with. Basically, he was echoing the position that was taken by the Nas Foundation judgment in 2009, which said exactly that. It did not do away with Section 377, it just read it down in a manner so as to ensure that consensual homosexual acts were excluded within its ambit. And you are right that lawmakers have failed us. Having said that, it is the remit of the Supreme Court to step in wherever lawmakers have failed. Just for a moment, I would like to point out that in 2009, the then Union Home Ministry, which was under, I think, Mr. Chidambaram was the Home Minister then, it had defended the retention of Section 377 as it was before the Delhi High Court. My learned friend Muhammad Khan should acknowledge that before he points fingers towards the BJP. And it's very easy for him to now, be all sanctimonious and lecture others. But the fact of the matter is that when the Congress was in power, when the Congress had the opportunity, it did not walk the talk. And if the BJP is doing something now, they should just appreciate it, because they were absolutely no locus standi as far as criticism is concerned. So this is what I wanted to say. The second point that I wanted to somewhere try to make is this. Today, the RSS has come out and it has said that Section 377 should be read down and homosexuality should be legalized. Having said that, the question that we need to be somewhere asking is, when is it that the Islamist clerics who are, so beloved of Rahul Gandhi and the Congress party, when is it that they are going to change their regressive stand? I mean, these are very legitimate questions that the people of India are asking.
Okay,
Raghav Avasthi, give me a minute now. I think you've raised an important point. I don't want you to get personal. This is not the show. This is not the channel that gets personal. Hold your thoughts there, because I would want to take this across to Muhammad Khan. And Muhammad Khan, I want to clarify with you, in 2009, indeed, is that what happened? Did the UPA under Mr. Chidambaram actually oppose it in the courts? And also, the Congress has seemed to have woken up to gay rights all of a sudden. You're tweeting about this. But what were you doing while in office for 1 year after it was criminalized in 2013? And more importantly, what steps did you take for the number of years that you had been in office to repeal this archaic law which predates the Constitution? It's a law that dates to 1861. You've been in office for 60 odd years. Why did you not repeal it all along?
All fair questions, Supriya, and I will answer them thusly. In 2009, this was an idea whose time had started to come, and it was widely acknowledged across the Congress party that it is an anachronism. In 2009, when Justice A.P. Shah struck down this law, the Congress came out in support of it. We had a press conference, and the statements made by our leaders at that time are there before you to see. The appeal, which Raghav, from the RSS, unsurprisingly, conceals to mention, is the appeal was filed by a private individual, a gentleman called Kaushal. And it was Kaushal versus Nas Foundation. That was the judgment pronounced in 2013. It was a private individual who raised the appeal. It wasn't us. That's why the Attorney General at that time, Ghulam Vahanvati, stood up in court and said, we can try and bring about legislative changes, and it is clearly time that this section needs to stand down. Justice Singhvi, G.S. Singhvi, whose final judgment this was at that time, disagreed and said, and if you read the judgment, he actually says this, that these people who identify as homosexual do not classify as a group that deserves protection under Article 14, 15 and 21, a position that we all disagreed with. By the time this judgment came in 2013, Supriya, you will well remember, the preparations for the elections had begun. No legislative business was taking place, largely thanks to the party Mr. Raghav supports, the party Ms. Shaina NC belongs to.
Okay, I take that point. Okay, you're saying the judgment, Mohammad Khan, allow me to interrupt you, have a quick follow-up. You're saying that by the time the judgment came, everyone was in preparation mode. In that case, Mohammad Khan, a quick follow-up. Mohammed Khan, a quick follow-up. Let's for a moment take your word and say that by the time the judgment came, everyone was in election mode. But what about the fact that when your own party leader Shashi Tharoor moved a private member's bill on 2 occasions, your own party members refused to stand by him. He made 2 attempts and his second bill found 14 votes in favour. To my memory, the Congress party has more than 14 seats in Lok Sabha. Where were the other 30 Congress MPs? So, today you can take a high moral ground and put out a tweet saying that you are backing gay rights, but you've equally let down the community.
Sandeep, here I must say one thing. Look, everyone seems to be citing the example of Mr. Shashi Tharoor, and of course you must, that's fair reporting. But I will also point out that our then party president and UPA chairperson Sonia Gandhi ji had this to say in no unequivocal terms, just 2 sentences. I am disappointed that the Supreme Court has reversed a previous Delhi High Court ruling on the issue of gay rights. The High Court had wisely removed an archaic, repressive and unjust law that infringed on the basic human rights enshrined in our Constitution. The Constitution has given us a great legacy, a legacy of liberalism and openness that enjoins us to combat prejudice and discrimination of any kind. This is part of a much longer statement. The Congress party's position was clear. Private members' bill functioned differently from regular bills. We don't know who was in the House at that point of time. I will need to go back and check that up. I don't know when I know when Mr. Tharoor moved it, including the second amendment where he tried. And the question you should be asking is not to us. As you rightly pointed out, we have more members than 14, 48 on today's date. Why did the government pass up this opportunity? This government which looks you in the eye and says, let the courts decide. You are asking the opposition for why the government didn't allow the bill to pass. I'm sorry, it seems a little disingenuous to me.
Mohammed, listen to me. Absolutely. I will ask that question and I will ask that question to Shaina NC. You haven't answered the question that was asked to you, that why did 30 odd members of the Congress party not support that private members bill? You cannot run away from the fact that we're quoting here, but fair point that why did the government, which has a blue majority, not raise it? We'll go to Shaina. But I think Raghav, Avasthi and Harish both want to come in, and very quickly, please make your interjections before I go back to Shaina next. Raghav?
Yeah, so what I wanted to say was that it is all very easy for the Congress party, speaking through my good friend Mohammed Khan, to use a forked tongue. The forked tongue, I mean the party says one thing, the government takes some other stand in court. So I don't think, I think it seems to be a deliberate sort of strategy on the part of the Congress party to try and obfuscate the issue. The fact of the matter is that the RSS, which is the
Suresh Kumar Kaushal versus the NAS Foundation,
a lot
the
of
government
BJP
was a
members
pro forma
allegiance.
party.
It has very clearly
Gentlemen,
said, it has
okay,
very
Raghav,
clearly
you made
said
your
that it
point.
believes
You made
that
your point about the
homosexuality
folk
ought
tongue
to
there.
be
I will go
legalized.
across to Harish because I think he wants to make a quick interjection as well. Harish, go ahead. Raghav, give me a minute now. Harish?
I just have one point to make. Whether it's the Congress party which had Ghulam Nabi Azad who said that homosexuality is a disease, or whether it is the BJP which actually had Rajnath Singh making homophobic statements, which had Yogi Adityanath making homophobic statements, they did nothing to muzzle them. And now the court, now the Supreme Court would have taken a verdict, and it would have been a verdict
he was spitting
in
on the issue.
in the favor of decriminalization of homosexuality, where the party has decided not to take a homophobic stance, and we welcome that stance right now. But both the parties cannot. This will be the victory of just the judiciary. Neither of the parties can take any credit for this because they all didn't stand up when they should have stood up. They should have.
Harish,
Today,
how much I
Subramaniam
agree
Swami
with
is
you
making
tonight.
homophobic
I
statements.
completely agree with you. None of the parties can take a high moral ground on this one, and which is why I'm going to direct my question next to Shaina NC. And Shaina, while I blame the Congress for its inaction and no decision for so many years, let me point the finger back at you. Subramaniam Swami says it's not a normal thing. It's against Hindutva, and we should invest in medical research to see if this can be cured. Is this the view of the BJP? And even within the BJP, it's not just Yogi Adityanath and Rajnath Singh who've called this unnatural and have sounded homophobic. We've got people like Arun Jaitley who've spoken against it. So there is a divergent view even within your party. What is the BJP's view on this? I don't want to understand the government's view. I want to understand your party's view.
Well, our party's view is very clear that Mr. Arun Jaitley has made it clear that you cannot criminalize an Article 3, Section 377 is very archaic in nature. So, are homosexuals and the LGBT community criminals? Obviously not. But do we want to keep the social fabric of the institution of marriage, etc., intact? That would be a concern, because we are a conservative nation, as I said earlier. But what two consenting adults do in their private space is really no concern of the government. So, it's for the honorable courts to decide. Are we as a country ready to have, gay marriages, children of same-sex partners, etc.? I don't think we're ready yet, because we need to have a strong discussion in Parliament where people have multiple opinions, and these opinions need to coexist in a democracy.
Okay, fair point. Harish, comment on that. As China, I take that point, but what I don't understand is what is the position, because Arun Jaitley's position is different from Rajnath Singh's position, is different from Yogi Adityanath's position, is different from Subramaniam Swamy's position. So there is no one position, like there isn't one in the Congress party as well. But Harish, let's move ahead. The government also says in the affidavit that's been submitted to the court today, the government council says that no other issue and rights have been referred for consideration, and issues regarding marriage, adoption, inheritance must not be taken up by the courts, because the government has a view. So while on decriminalizing, same sex, they're saying that let the court take a final call, but on all other issues it says it has a point of view and the court should not take a call. How are we to read this?
I think it's a step in the right direction. At least they're starting with something. We, as a part of the Supreme Court thing, we were not asking for marriage rights and other rights as well. First we are treated as criminals. So let's begin with that. And of course, we will be fighting for other rights as well, as in due course maybe, but not at this moment. I think that the government has just stated the obvious, because we were anyways not asking for those things at this moment. But will we lead there? I don't see any reason why a homosexual citizen of this country should not get the same benefits as a heterosexual citizen of this country. If this is a natural orientation that the Psychiatric Association says of India, of America, and all the psychiatric associations say, I don't know eventually why we shouldn't get the same equal rights as everyone else. But is this the step? Is this the first step in the right direction? Is this the first step in the beginning of the end of discrimination? Yes, it is. I think that way we welcome it.
Okay, you're saying it's a first. You're saying it's a first step, and it's a step in the right direction. We're also joined by Flavia. Flavia, thanks for joining us here at ET. Now, your reactions to what's happened in the court first up, since we haven't heard from you, and also the government. And if I may add in a question, the government affidavit also says it would like to contest on points like marriage, adoption, inheritance. So it's left it to the court to decide on Section 377 when it comes to a consensual sex. But otherwise, on all other matters, it says the government has a point of view if the court so chooses to examine them, even though it's said that it's not within the permit of the reference. Would you call that double speak? How are you reading that?
Okay, I think Justice Chandrachud made a comment that this is a 9-judge, this is a 5-judge constitutional bench who is hearing the matter, and it's not constrained by only the reference. It has greater powers and it can look at all the issues. But immediately the Chief Justice said that we will only look at a very narrow scope of decriminalizing consensual sex between adults. So that goes along with what the government is saying and the Chief Justice is saying, matches in a way, because the government AC who is arguing, Tushar Mehta, has said that there has not been a decision on this, there is no discussion in the government on this, and we are going to bring out a more comprehensive scheme later, but now we have not discussed, so please do not include. Hello?
Okay. Flavia, just hold your thoughts there, because I want to go to a more technical point of this entire debate. And Raghav, let me begin with you on this. There are two separate and distinct issues that are open for arguments here. Number one, whether sex against the order of nature as prescribed under the law was retrograde. And number two, can sexual rights to persons be denied just because they formed a minuscule minority? Let's start with the first point. What is order of nature? Was it the order of nature in 1861? And won't laws that predate the constitution in any case be invalid now?
Yeah, so
Raghav?
I think the position with regard to pre-constitutional laws is slightly different. Can you hear me now? Yeah, can you hear me? Yeah, can you hear me, Supriya? Am I audible?
We can hear you clearly.
So
Go
what I
ahead.
was saying is that the position with respect to yeah, great. The position with respect to pre-constitutional laws is slightly different. It's under Article 13. It's technical, so I won't be going into it right now. Having said that, if it's a pre-constitutional law which violates the provisions of Part 3 of the Constitution, the same can definitely be struck down. Now I'll come to the phrase against the order of nature, which occurs in Section 377. Now, Section 377 is obviously, it was drafted in 1860 by someone called Thomas Babington Macaulay, and who is, amongst other things, also infamous for his Macaulay's Minute. And so it reflects a Victorian morality which might not be in tune with India's folks guys today. That's one. And secondly, I think the fact that our country celebrates homosexuality, let's say in sculptures in Khajuraho or Ajanta or Ellora, is something that we have to appreciate. And that is why when the RSS today says that it wants to decriminalize consenting homosexual relations between adults, then in a way we are maintaining continuity with that past. That also has to be recognized. And as far as the other question that you posed is concerned, now the fact of the matter is obviously is that the LGBT community till now it has not been so vocal as it has lately started to become. And as the first step is obviously to make sure that 377 is read down, and I am sure that once 377 is read down, the LGBT community would be accepted with open arms into the mainstream, and that will pave the way for their greater participation in public affairs and also in all other spheres of life as well.
Okay. I take that point. I have a question for Flavia, but before that, I saw Mohammed Khan sort of shaking his head when you were making your point. Mohammed Khan, a quick reaction from you?
Well, Sandeep, I wouldn't say I was shaking my head. If I was shaking it, I was shaking it in bemusement. The RSS has come out in support, and that is a good thing, of course. This is a point of time when we must all be remembered on the right side of history. I'm glad that Raghav echoes that sentiment. And instead of pointing fingers at the Congress, I would hope that he would remind his colleagues in the BJP, or whatever relationship they have with them, to now stay the course and bring in legislation that is far-reaching and emancipates these people, gives them rights and recognition that they deserve. Let's follow the rhetoric up with some action, is what I would say.
I think 10 doesn't hold. Okay, fair point. Flavia, the other aspect is on what the court is going to look at, and many legal experts believe that not only does Section 377 violate the right to equality and non-discrimination, but the reason why this entire sort of petition is sort of been seen favorably is because people are wondering how is it consistent with the guaranteed constitutional right to privacy, a decision taken by the Supreme Court just last year. So on the one hand, you've got the right to privacy judgment of the Supreme Court, and then of course you've got the issue of right to equality and non-discrimination in our constitution.
Yeah, actually right now the focus is on criminal law and decriminalization, and that's a very narrow scope. But according to me, civil rights mean much more to people, that is affects their everyday life. Like whether it is right to end of service benefits, right to housing, right to jobs, right to inheritance, right to get married. Now there are many other rights. Many of them are contractual rights. Some of them are against another citizen. Some of them are against the state. Some of them are against each other. Now these are a very comprehensive bucket of rights. And if there is a legislation which is separate, which will help to bring all of them under one umbrella, that will be great. If BJP is supportive and if they are not going to contest this, the next step for them is to bring in a legislation. Now, the Supreme Court has said very clearly, at least the Chief Justice has said very clearly, we are not going to look into it. We will deal with the issue as and when the issues come up. But then Mukul Rohatgi has responded and said that individual people are not in a position to approve the Supreme Court when their rights are violated. It takes a very long time and everyone is not going to rush to the Supreme Court. So in that context, it is up to the government to ensure that equal opportunities are provided to diverse kind of people, it can be religious diversity, it can be caste and cultural diversity, it can be sexual orientation diversity. So that equal opportunity commission needs to be set up, and a bill which guarantees equal opportunities for everyone has to be brought in, so all these rights can be taken together.
Okay, that's a valid point indeed, how every diversity and every choice needs to be respected. But let me take this across to Harish. And Harish, is there hope? Because Justice Chandrachud, who as part of the 9-judge bench deciding the fundamental nature of right to privacy, had on the 8th of January this year said that the LGBTQ community members' sexual orientation had an inseparable relationship with their fundamental right to privacy, and accepted that the Supreme Court had erred in denying them that right. Do you believe this kind of these kind of statements that he's made in the past give hope, because he's once again on this constitutional bench?
I think, in fact, the reason why we are so positive and very optimistic about this is because of the privacy judgment, and because the privacy judgment was so progressive, and it had actually said that the Kaushal judgment had erred in. I mean, there was a mistake in the Kaushal judgment, and that's why we are very optimistic about this Section 377, and that's why we also see political parties who have never previously, they must have been whispers here and there, but they've never made their stance so pragmatically clear that they are going to support LGBT rights. I mean, they have never made it so pragmatically clear. You've heard some voices here and there, you have had some people here and there, but it's been so clear only now do we hear this so clearly. And this is simply because after the privacy judgment, we have actually won the battle at the privacy judgment itself. It's just a matter of time and technicality that we need to go through this verdict now, and I'm sure that LGBT people, sex or any consensual sex in private between adults is going to be decriminalized.
Okay. Okay, let me bring you in China into the debate back again. China, would you agree that the ramifications of this verdict go way beyond choice and sexuality? It will now have an impact on how society looks at homosexuals, about perception, livelihood and jobs. So in some sense, the ramifications is way beyond, sexuality.
But
China?
as a country, we are a family-oriented country that believes in the institution of marriage. I mean, we are a country that believes in the institution of marriage. So why go away from that? I mean, the fact is that the Honorable Supreme Courts have to decide based on a petition. You have the gay right activists who have applauded the government for the stand. I don't think it is for the government to go into people's bedrooms to see what their personal choices are, which is what Nitin Gadkari also said.
No, I hear you on that point, Shana, but what I'm asking is, will this judgment have an impact beyond just sexuality on how society looks at homosexuals, about perception, about livelihood, about job opportunities for these? Because, we make the mistake of looking at it through a very narrow prism of sexuality, but its impact is far deeper and far wider. Do you believe that this will have that far-reaching impact, is what I'm asking?
No, not at all. No, not at all.
Okay. All right, let me just take this across to Mohammad Khan. And Mohammad, I see you smiling there. If the Supreme Court excludes consensual sex from law, is that going to be enough? I mean, this is largely a follow-up to what Sandeep said. This is not going to be a decision in itself, because this is going to have a ramification on the biases against homosexuality and homosexuals, on the job opportunities, the kind of economic prospects for them.
Yeah.
Do you think just declaring it decriminal offense is going to be enough?
No, and here I must address Shaina ji and her party directly. Shaina ji, you are very fortunate. Today the Supreme Court has given you an opportunity that many legislators and government before you have wanted to have but couldn't. You are being given a window of opportunity to bring in far-reaching legislation. You are being given an opportunity to make history. You will see that all of Parliament will stand up and support you. Nobody wants to, as I said earlier, be counted on the wrong side of history. Do you know why the Supreme Court has refused to lay down any law in addition to this? Because we have a doctrine of separation of powers. The judiciary does not do the job of the legislature, which does not do the job of the executive. It is the legislature's remit to define the rights that must flow. Shaina ji, we are a conservative country, undoubtedly. But being conservative doesn't mean that we are close-minded or we do not march with the times. We have to be progressive. There are many in your party who I believe will support you if you take this measure. I promise you, the Congress stands with you. Harish, I wanted to say this to you. In 2013 itself, our party president made our party line clear regardless of personal opinions. We stood with you then, we stand with you now. And congrats to you. It has been a long battle. In 2010, the Nalsa judgment must also be credited, where the rights of transgenders was first discussed. In this judgment, the Kaushal judgment was first questioned, and then of course the right to privacy judgment. It's been a long battle, and I congratulate you guys. Well done.
The same vein, also say a sorry for not standing up between 2009 and 2013.
Harish, I'll come to you. I think Raghav wanted to make a quick point. Raghav,
Well,
go ahead. Yes, go ahead,
ever
Raghav.
since I've been a member of the party, I've always stood up for you. So.
Yeah, so the point that I wanted to make somewhere is this. Mohammad Khan, my dear friend Mohammad Khan, spoke about separation of powers, and he said that it is somehow the duty of the legislature, and he is now trying to haul the BJP government over hot coals. Having said that, I do feel that if Section 377 is read down, all the constitutional protections under Part 3, including the protection under Article 14, would be available to people who belong to the LGBT community. So I don't see where this whole separation of powers doctrine comes from, because comes in here. It's not really applicable. And that's why I dearly hope that the Supreme Court expeditiously makes sure
stretch your
that
imagination,
consensual
you would
homosexual
realize
sex
that the
between
next step
adults
is
is
marriage.
legalized.
The next step is adoptions. So there will be a time whether it's
The
you
next
or
step
in
is
your
marriage,
brief
exactly.
tenure or
The
the
next
government
the
that will take this decision.
the
but it will
next step
fall.
is marriage.
But it
Having
will
said that,
fall
this
to
is
one
not
May I
before the
just come in
Supreme
for a
Court.
minute?
This is not the point that I am trying to make, Mohammad Khan.
So come in.
Is that
Okay,
this is not the
Mohammad
list before
Khan.
the Supreme Court. You have to understand
Okay.
this also. It's not.
May I just make one point?
Go ahead.
Okay,
Supriya,
Raghav.
please.
Sure. Shana, I'm
Supriya.
coming to you, and I want to add a question
just
there.
make
Shana,
one
I'm coming
point.
to you only. Raghav, Mohammed, just give me a moment. Sure, Shana, even as you do that, I have one question. You can answer my question and add your point as well. Doesn't the fact that prominent sort of members of the LGBT community and their sympathizers from varied walks of life have come forward over the last 2 years? We've seen some really prominent members, come forward in the battle. Does it not lend credibility and conviction to the demand of repealing Section 377? Today you have some of people like Keshav Suri, the executive director of the Lalit Suri Group, the Nas Foundation that works in HIV and sexual health. So you've got a lot of prominent individuals and organizations that have joined this battle with people like Harish. Does that sort of give more power and lend credibility to it? And I want you to react to it, and of course to the other point that you were making. Go ahead, China.
Firstly, I want to tell Mr. Mohammad Khan this great sermonizing, this was an opportunity for you to present yourself in the Supreme Court. I want to say, if you only look back and see what Mr. Ghulam Nabi Azad has said of your party, he said that it's the most unnatural act. Our party is not saying that. Our party is saying that do we need to decriminalize the fact that homosexuality is a criminality. 1 minute, let me complete. I silently
make a point.
Who's making these statements? You should first say.
No, Mohammed, let her make a
I
point.
Please
silently
keep quiet and
listen
let her
to you.
complete her point.
There may be
Mohammed-
multiple opinions in my party. I'm not sitting here like a hypocrite. There may be multiple opinions in my party. There may be multiple opinions in society, but I'm still saying that we need to assimilate and respect different thought processes. And that is the line of the BJP as well, which is that we have no say if the matter is in court. The court needs to decide. And as far as two consenting adults are concerned, what they do in their private space is really no business of the government. However, the longer and the larger debate about laws vis-a-vis transgenders, this Modi ji has commented on in 2015, saying that we need to discuss and deliberate. You have Shashi Tharoor coming with his private members bill, which one Congress member did support him in Parliament, and you're saying everyone will be ready to discuss. There is a hypocrisy in our society. We need to understand, does the LGBT community exist? Yes, it exists. Does it have its rights and its choices? Yes, it should. But are we ready for the next step? It is for the honorable courts to decide and for us to execute. So don't put everything on the onus of the government to say your leader said this, or this is your stand, or this was a golden opportunity.
Shaina NC and
Okay, can I
Mohammed
reply?
Khan, I think
Sandeep,
both
can
of
I
you
reply?
represent a more moderate face perhaps of your party, because they are voices within the Congress and they are voices within the BJP who still call this unnatural, who still denounce it. I mean, sirs and ma'am,
Yes.
this is a matter of choice. But Harish, I'm going to bring this to you. From
Yes.
Tim Cook to Peter Thiel to Christopher Bailey to Norway's top politician, they are all openly gay. And here we in India in 2018, we want a permanent Security Council seat. We are overzealous to be the world's fastest growing economy. We want to be a superpower. But guess what? At 9 p.m. in 2018, we are still debating whether our homosexuals are criminals or not.
Absolutely, and I think it's pretty. It's funny that we are actually discussing something like this. Whether consenting adults need to, whether we need to peep into the bedrooms of consenting adults. I'm happy that BJP has. BJP and RSS have come out in support, and they've come out in support at this time when the verdict is going to be out and when it's going to be this thing. Yes, there have been whispers, but they've never come out so prominently in support of decriminalization, so prominently. I mean, there have been whispers here and there. Shaina NC has also many a time said that the time will come and then we will see and stuff like that. I have been on debates with her. But now they have come out in support and they say that this decriminalization should happen and the court should take its decision. I would also like to point out one thing. One thing that Justin Trudeau did was he apologized to the LGBT community in Parliament. Is the Congress for not standing up with Shashi Tharoor in the Parliament and for Ghulam Nabi Azad making a statement like that? And is the BJP for having Subramaniam Swamy make statements, for having different people in the party making various statements? Are they willing to get up and say that in a very dignified stance, willing to get up and say, you know, our party men did mistakes, we do not stand with them. We apologize on the basis of all the statements that were made, and today, so apologize first for the mistakes that you did, and then we'll move forward. That's a dignified stance that I would like to hear from both the parties.
Harish, can I say
instead of this thing. Say it, that I didn't stand up with Shashi Tharoor when he raised the bill. Congress people didn't stand up with Shashi Tharoor. Say it when that Rajnath Singh made a statement, homophobic statement, and
Harish,
we didn't stand
I think
up
you've
with
made
them.
your point. Can I answer your question?
Yes.
Okay, very quickly, Mohammed Khan.
Harish, my answer to you is simple. Our part, 30 seconds. First of all, yes, as Supriya and Sandeep pointed out to me that when Mr. Tharoor did indeed present the first bill, only 14 members of parliament voted with him. I actually was Googling this during the course of the debate, and I found in a print article that unfortunately, given the time that the bill was listed, many people were not present in the floor of the House. I still take responsibility for that. We should have made it a legislative priority and raised it. But to say that that reflected the legislative intention of the Congress or the political will of the Congress is incorrect. Number two, Harish, I have said this, I'm saying this for the third time. When our party president, and there is no higher authority in our party than Sonia Gandhi, comes out and says something, that is our party line. Can you show me a comparable example of a leader in the BJP saying this, of any senior leader in the BJP saying this, except for Hemming and Hoy?
Can I
Number
come in
three,
here, please?
Harish, when Ghulam Nabi Azad said that, do you think channels did not ask us?
This is
Do
not a
you think
BJP
channels did not
Congress
ask us as to whether we share his
This
views?
is a
We
society.
immediately distanced ourselves from his views at that point of time.
Mohammed Khan, here's the point. Mohammed Khan, okay, Mohammed, the problem is you make a statement like this and Raghav wants to comment, China wants to comment, and rightly so. Let's not reduce this to a BJP Congress. I mean, we are 5 minutes to the debate. Surely we should now not take a bipartisan position. But let me come to you, Flavia. There is a cost of inaction. A 2012 World Bank report clearly states that homophobia leads to loss to India's GDP, and put a wide range of anywhere between 0.1 to 1.7% of the GDP. Can India afford this economic cost to this homophobia?
Absolutely. And I agree with you completely. And actually, this debate has been going on for over 20 years or even more. We are discussing uniform civil code, we are discussing something else, but we are not discussing basic right of a large segment or even a small segment, let's say. There's civil rights, and I think these civil rights are far more, are equally important than the decriminalization, because this will help them to lead a normal life. This will help them to integrate. And what is sad in our country, after all that we say, we don't have a single senior bureaucrat, we don't have a judge, we do not have politicians who say, yes, I'm gay. People are not coming out as what is their sexuality and sexual orientation. If that happened, there would be much more respect. We would be able to accept it. In so many countries, the judges are homosexual. So there is no question of discrimination. There is no question of like looking down. We are not giving that kind of respectability. We are just at the stage of deciding whether they are criminals or they are not criminals. I think we have a far long way to go when we are able to recognize the civilian rights. Without civilian rights, you don't exist. And all your rights in family relationships, if family is important, then all these relationships are very important, and they have to be brought into different legislation or contractual obligations where the state recognizes them as individuals who are free to contract, who are free to negotiate, who are free to press for their rights, ascertain their rights at workplace and other places. And we don't have those rights even today.
Fair point. Shaina, let me come to you. And of course, we will not, and we
May
are
I
not
come in now?
prejudging the verdict, making no assumptions. But if, yeah, Shaina, a quick point to you. I'm just saying we at TT now are not prejudging the verdict. We are not making any baseless assumptions. But let's presume for a minute that the court refuses to decriminalize gay sex and passes the buck back to Parliament like it did in 2013. Can we expect our politicians to set aside political differences and get us a law in place? Can we expect that kind of responsibility from our political class?
I really hope, and it's high time, I hope that the courts actually first very maturely take a decision, because decriminalizing is an obvious. You cannot hold an archaic law of the 18th century today in 2018. And as far as Parliament is concerned, yes, if they pass the buck, I am sure that the parliamentarians will realize they need to discuss this, because we cannot be putting blinkers on. However, are we ready for 2 steps forward? I said in the initial phase that no, I don't think so, because we still believe in the institution of marriage, procreation, certain value systems, social structures, etc., which can also come into jeopardy. So are we ready for the next step, which is discussing, you know, same-sex marriages, children, etc.? I think that is also due, but it will take a little bit of time, and I can give you a hypocritical answer as Mr. Mohammed Khan has. Oh, this is a BJP versus Congress. It's not a BJP versus Congress issue. It's about respecting each other's choice and understanding that there are choices which could be different to yours, but we need to coexist, and that can only happen if we are. Oh, please.
Point.
Let me just complete a
don't do
simple
that. She didn't interrupt you.
point,
Let her complete
which
her
is
point.
in a
Go
country
ahead.
as diverse as India, if
Yeah.
we can coexist with different caste, creed, communities and choices, the least we can do is understand that people can have choices which are very different to yours, which you may disagree with, but you still need to respect.
Okay, I take that point. Harish, you wanted to respond to something that Shaina said. Go ahead.
I don't know where this whole discussion about, you know, we are a country where we respect the institution of marriage and all this comes. If tomorrow we decide on marrying, I don't know how how will heterosexuals stop marrying each other because homosexuals are marrying each other? How does this affect the institution of marriage and all those things, you know? Because I think we are thinking too far-fetched. Now we are just talking about decriminalization. Shaina and others need to be rest assured that no one has
Agreed.
seen two gay people getting married to each other or falling in love with each other, and the institution of marriage has not fallen down because of that. And no two straight people are going to say that, you know what, we are not going to marry because there are gay people marrying. So there is no correlation between gay marriage and straight marriage. Both can exist in coexistence. But now is the time for decriminalization. We'll cross the bridge of marriage
Harish ji,
later.
I talked as a concept whether we're ready to discuss.
We are ready to discuss. I
Yes,
think
I agree
India.
with you there.
I think India is progressive.
Let's
I think
take
India is
one step.
wild-minded.
Okay, let's take the first step forward, which is what we need to, and hopefully the Supreme Court will pave the way. Raghav, I don't want you to wear the RSS hat and answer this question. At the end of the day, this micro LGBT community isn't a vocal vote bank, and that's why do you believe that issues have not been addressed by any politician so far? You know, similar issues of other communities, you know, which are a more sort of dominant vote bank, you know, automatically gets addressed by the political system. And I'm not sort of, you know, I'm picking up from a point that you made at the start of the debate, really. But you know, is it because of the fact that it's not it's a small community, and it's not a vote bank, it's not going to move the needle politically, and is that why these issues have not been addressed politically?
So I think there are two aspects here. I, for one, don't believe that the LGBT community is as minuscule as you think it is. I think the LGBT population in India is close to 10%. Having said that, you know, we cannot reduce them to vote banks. We cannot reduce them to their sexual identities. There are LGBT people who are Hindus, who are Muslims, who are Christians, who are atheists. So it would be doing a disservice to the whole movement to reduce the identity of all of the LGBT people to their sexual identity. Having said that, obviously the legislature is supposed to you know, go by the sentiment of the majority, and that is why under this doctrine of separation of powers, which my good friend Muhammad Khan referred to earlier, there is a concept of checks and balances, and the Supreme Court of India and all other high courts, they are supposed to be the guardians of individual rights. And I think that's something which is very important as far as we are concerned.
Oh yes, let the court of, you know, the Supreme Court of India take that view. Completely timed out on this edition of India Development Debate. Can't thank this wonderful panel for joining us with your perspective on what really is a critical issue that needs to be taken a view on. The five wise men and women are hearing pleas against an archaic colonial era law that makes personal choice a criminal offence. It's time for India of 2018 to not just repeal the law that criminalizes gay sex, but also change its perception, attitude and its biases against those who opt for it. We once again have a chance to be on the right side of history. Can we afford to miss this one?
Who can ever legislate on love? And in a world full of hatred, if it thrives between two men or two women, then so be it. And to take a departure from everything that we've discussed on the show, it's quoting Jigar Muradabadi here. मोहब्बत एक लफ्ज़ मैंने है जाना सिमटे तो दिले आशिक फैले तो ज़माना. Thanks very much for being with us on this edition of the India Development Debate.